If you spend enough time in Skyrim, you're bound to find yourself in some of its deeper and darker places. If you spent enough time exploring, you've probably come across these guys, the Falmer. Although they look a little bit like a little creepy average goblin, they actually have a much more noble history. Long before they became the twisted creatures lurking in Skyrim's dark corners, the Falmer were actually elves. Fall meaning snow, and Mer being the collective term for the 11 elven races. Revered for their beauty, sophisticated culture, and close connection to the icy landscapes of Skyrim, they once built majestic cities and left behind intricate art and architecture. Their society was considered very wealthy and prosperous, especially for the time, possibly rivaling that of the Altmer, or the High Elves. Although most of their culture and artifacts are believed to be long gone, many texts and remnants that we do have access to hint at the Snow Elves' lost grandeur. Their cultural heritage speaks of a time when magic, art, and nature coexisted with one another. Inside some various books that we can find in-game, including Night of Tears, Fall of the Snow Prince, and The Falmer, a study, we learn that the Falmer had existed in Skyrim as its first Mer civilization. In fact, the Snow Elves were in Skyrim even before the Altmer, or the High Elves. The turning point came with the brutal conflicts of Skyrim's past. During the Merethic era, the Snow Elves found themselves in conflict with the Nords, who had recently migrated from Atmora. Yes, the Snow Elves called Skyrim home even before the Nords. There are a few reasons given for the conflict, such as territorial disputes, cultural clashes, or competition for resources. However, we are aware of one significant event that was recorded in a book titled Night of Tears, named after the tragic event itself. In this book, we learn of an early Nord settlement called Sartha, one of the earliest known capitals. The elves attacked the city in an attempt to drive the Nords out of Skyrim. This only incurred the wrath of Ysgramor, who is considered the founder of the Companions. In an act of retaliation, Ysgramor and his 500 companions attacked the Snow Elves. This resulted in the deaths of many, and ultimately caused the Snow Elves to retreat. This event became known as the Night of Tears, and established Skyrim as the home of the Nords. The author of the Night of Tears continues by saying, "The true motives behind the Night of Tears have been obscured to us by the passage of time, but I believe this was not a simple war of territory. The Nords found something when they built their city, buried deep in the ground. They attempted to keep it buried, but the elves learned of it and coveted it for themselves. They assaulted Sarthal, their goal not to drive the Nords out, but to secure this power for themselves." He continues by saying that he believes Ysgramor knew something about what the elves would find beneath Sarthal, and that is the reason he rallied his men to drive them out. Without a home, the Snow Elves turned to the Dwemer for protection. The Dwemer were happy to offer them sanctuary, but at a great cost. They encouraged the Snow Elves to consume what was unknown to them, a toxic fungus. This led to the gradual loss of sight over generations, eventually leaving the Snow Elves completely blind. Their blindness induced by the Dwemer, combined with their subterranean confinement and loss of their home, caused the Snow Elves to become increasingly dependent on the Dwemer, eventually descending into servitude. As time passed, due to their new environment and the consumption of the toxic fungus, their bodies and their culture began to change dramatically, eventually turning them into what we can find today. The memories of their proud heritage faded, leaving behind only a desperate, survival-driven existence. When the player encounters the Falmer in Skyrim, they'll find that they're entirely hostile. There is no option to converse with them. In fact, the Falmer aren't even capable of intelligible speech at this point. Their blind aggression, combined with their newfound home, tells a silent story of tragedy, one where once civilized people were reduced to a state of perpetual suffering. As mentioned before, the Falmer can be found in Dwemer ruins or the remote icy caverns of Skyrim. The presence of the Falmer is a somber reminder of what was lost. Each encounter with these creatures is not just a battle for survival, it gives the player a reminder of what became of a once great civilization. At its core, the tale of the Falmer is a tragedy, a narrative of how cruelty and exploitation can annihilate an entire culture. Their descent from the majestic Snow Elves to the blind, feral beings serves as a powerful commentary on the destructive nature of oppression. However, although many believe that the Snow Elves were entirely lost, this isn't exactly true. In the Dawnguard DLC, players can encounter Knight Paladin Gelibor, who is considered to be the last known snow elf. He can be found in the Chantry of Ori El, a sanctuary hidden in the Forgotten Vale. He distinguishes himself from the Falmer, referring to them as the Betrayed. While the Falmer may now be reduced to shadows of their former selves, their tragic history remains one of the most compelling narratives in Skyrim. It's a story of lost glory, cruelty, and the enduring impact of a tragedy. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the hidden lore of the Falmer. If you enjoyed this deep dive, I ask you to like, subscribe, and feel free to leave your thoughts and other theories in the comments below. See you later.